Hello everyone, this is another deck review for Commander from Magic the Gathering. And this time I'm going to show you guys my Giada Font of Hope deck. I've been playing this for quite some months now, actually since New Capenna was released, and I still love this deck. It is really one of my it is one of my favorite decks, and I'm going to show you guys what it is all about. Giada, Font of Hope, is a commander, mono white. Yes, I dare to build mono white. It's a 2/2 for 2. It's an angel, flying and vigilance, and each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. And if you tap her, you can add white, and you can only spend it to cast an angel spell. Very interesting commander. I am absolutely crazy about angels in Magic, and this was definitely a call for me to just start building an angel deck. Now then, this is this list, well, part of this list has been created by a friend of mine, and I lacked like a quarter of the deck or something, or even more. So I filled it up with my own choices here. So this is not your most average Giada deck. First of all, we start off with some synergy cards that have to do with the +1/+1 counters. Archangel of Thune for 5 mana, 3/4 flying with lifelink, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Very powerful card indeed. Herald of War for 5 mana is a 3/3 flying, and when Herald of War attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Angel spells and human spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each +1/+1 counter on Herald of War, which can spiral quite a lot out of control in this deck. Youthful Valkyrie. It's a 1/3 for 2 with flying, and whenever another angel enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Youthful Valkyrie. Then we have some cards that give that boost the powers and boost some other stuff here. Angelic Field Marshal for 4 mana as a 3/3 angel, flying with Lieutenant as long as you control your commander. Angelic Field Marshal gets +2/+2, and creatures you control have vigilance. Very nice to have. Angel of Jubilation for 4 mana as a 3/3 flying. Other non-black creatures you control get +1/+1. And players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities. Very nice for fetch lands. Against fetch lands. Very cool indeed. Lyra Dawnbringer, one of my favorite angels. 5/5 for 5. Flying, first strike, and lifelink. Very powerful as it is. And other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. Super nice to have. Lifelink is a sub-theme in this deck. Avacyn, Angel of Hope for some protection. For 8 mana you get an 8/8 flying vigilance, and Avacyn and other permanents you control are indestructible. Then a different version. Sephara, Sky's Blade for 7 mana as a 7/7, but you can pay white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay this spell's mana cost. It has flying and lifelink, and other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. Then we are going to some life gain. Shattered Angel for 5 mana as a 3/3 flying. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may gain 3 life. Now in our little group of players, we have someone with a landfall deck, so that's pretty nasty combination. Angel of Vitality, yeah, why not? It's a 3 mana 2/2 flying, and if you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead. And Angel of Vitality gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life, which is really, really realistic. Inspiring Overseer, just a smaller angel, 3 mana 2/1 flying, and when it enters the battlefield, gain 1 life and draw a card. Angel of Grace, for 5 mana, 5/4 flying with flash. When Angel of Grace enters the battlefield, until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. And for 6 mana, exile Angel of Grace from your graveyard. Your life total becomes 10. Archangel of Tithes. So now we're going to the stacks part of the deck. For 4 mana, it's a 3/5 flying. As long as Archangel of Tithes is untapped, creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. And as long as Archangel of Tithes is attacking, creatures can block unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Angelic Arbiter for 7, it's a 5/6 flying, and each opponent who casts a spell this turn can't attack with creatures. And vice versa, of course, each opponent who attacked with a creature this turn can't cast spells. Then we have Linvala, the Keeper of Silence, for 4 mana, it's a 3/4 flying. Activated abilities from creatures your opponents control can't be activated. Sweet. Now for some graveyard shenanigans. Angel of Flight Alabaster for 5 mana, it's a 4/4 flying. And at the beginning of your upkeep, return target spirit card from your graveyard to your hand. Now there aren't a lot of spirits in this deck, but there's at least one you can save this for, or else it's just a 4/4 flying angel with a lot of counters and benefits from the rest. Karmic Guide for 5 mana, it's a 2/2 flying, protection from black. Echo 5, so you have to pay 5 again in your next upkeep or sacrifice it. And when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Can be very cool just for the effect. Emilia Shepherd for 7 mana, 4/4 flying with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land is a plains, you may return target non-land permanent card to the battlefield instead. Very powerful. Then we have some exile cards. Angel of the Dire Hour for 7 mana, 5/4, flash and flying. When Angel of the Dire Hour enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, exile all attacking creatures. Then we have Glorious Protector for 4 mana, 3/4, flash and flying. Foretell 3. When Glorious Protector enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until Glorious Protector leaves the battlefield. Now this can be particularly situational, but there are some cards you may wish to protect that we are seeing in the deck later. Angel of Finality for 4 mana, it's a 3/4 flying, and when Angel of Finality enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Very nice to have. Then we have some random angels. Sanctuary Warden for 6 mana, it's a 5/5 flying. When she enters the battlefield, with 2 shield counters on it. And whenever Sanctuary Warden enters the battlefield or attacks, you may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control, which we have enough. If you do, draw a card and create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Very nice to have. I actually never draw this card in all of the months that I've been playing. Weird. Then for some hard beaters, Akroma, Angel of Wrath, the classic angel, where my love for the magic angels started. I've read the books of Onslaught, Legion, and I really, really liked the backstory of this character. For 8 mana, it's a 6/6 flying, first strike, trample, haste, protection from black, protection from red, and vigilance, which was back then not a keyword yet. And then we have another beater, Baneslayer Angel, for 5 mana, 5/5, flying, first strike, lifelink, protection from demons and from dragons. Then we have a rather small angel, which can become very big when it enters the battlefield for just 1 mana. It's a flying vigilance, 1/1. Either you can start your game with this or just save it up for a bigger creature for 1 mana. And this is also one of the first cards that could be replaced for one of the better angels that I don't have. Then we have a Platinum Angel. For 7 mana, 4/4 flying, you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Of course, this is rather easy to get rid of because it's an artifact and a creature, but still, You have a lot of protection in the deck. Yeah, some protection in the deck, but this is just a good card. It's an angel. Yeah, why not? Why not include it in this deck? Then we have a pair that can transform. Bruna, the Fading Light, for 7 mana, 5/7, flying and vigilance. And when you cast Bruna, the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And she melts with Giada, the Broken Blade, for 4 mana, it's a 4/3, flying first strike lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you both control and own Giada, the Broken Blade, and a creature named Bruna, the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brizella, the Voice of Nightmares. And then it becomes this monstrosity here. Oh. Which is basically this in 9/10 flying first strike vigilance lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. And it's still an angel. So that's pretty nice. Pretty nasty. Whew. Right, I'm going to sleeve them later on. Again, and then we have some personal choices and touches. This is now no longer just a spirit, it is an angel spirit, and it is for 2 mana flying protection from artifacts. It's a 1/1, rather cheap, but the protection is very nice to have. And so we have the old cycle of voices in here. Voice of Law for 4 mana, it's a flying 2/2 protection from red. They're all 4 mana, all flying, all 2/2. They have different protection. So this is red. Voice of Reason, protection from blue. Voice of Duty, protection from green. Voice of Grace, protection from black. Voice of All, when she enters play you choose a color and she has protection from that color. I did not include Voice of Truth, which is protection from white. Why? Well, I just didn't want to mess up the interactions with this deck. Then we have some support for the angels. So these were the angels of the deck. Luminarch's Ascension, of course, for 2 mana, it's an enchantment. And at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if you didn't lose life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Luminarch Ascension. Then for 2 mana, you can put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. But you can activate it only if Luminarch Ascension has 4 or more quest counters on it. In the game of Commander, yeah, you're putting a rather big mark on yourself, but if you can protect yourself, this is actually quite a fine card. Then we have Starnheim Aspirant, for 3 mana, a 2/2 human. We have seen some cards that interact with humans, or non-angels, this is one of them. Angel spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Then we have this one as well, a human cleric as well. Also interacts with all those cards. You can save this one as well. It's a 2 mana, 1/4, the Bishop of Wings. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. And whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Then we have the Spirit, to return from your graveyard with Angel of... what is it? Finality? The Sobbing Angel that returns a spirit. Drum Bellower. For 3 mana, it's a 2/1 flying, and untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step, just in case you are missing vigilance. Elspeth Resplendent. For our one of the 2 planeswalkers in the deck. For 5 mana, we get a 5 loyalty planeswalker. +1, choose up to 1 target creature. Put a +1/+1 counter. And a counter from among flying first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it, which is actually pretty nice. Then -3, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. There are plenty of cards here with mana cost 3 or less. So yeah, you'll be hitting something quite often. I only fizzled with that one once, I believe. -7, create 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying. 3/3 is a rather odd power and toughness for angels, but yeah, this one creates it 5 times. And then we have Ajani, Strength of the Pride. I also never played this card in all these months. Yeah, strange how you don't see some of the cards that you put in your deck for months. For 4 mana, it's a 5 loyalty planeswalker, +1. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you control, plus the number of planeswalkers you control. -2, create a 2/2 white cat soldier creature token named Ajani's Bridemaid with, whenever you gain life, which you could get quite often, put a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Bridemaid. Then for 0, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, which is easy to do, exile Ajani's Strength of the Pride and each artifact and creature your opponents control. Nice. Then we have some removal here. Path to Exile. For 1, it's an instant. Exile target creature. Its controller may search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped. Swords to Plowshares, of course. For 1, it's an instant. Exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Generous Gift. For 3 mana, it's an instant. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 elephant creature token. Then we have Mass Removal, Hour of Revelation for 6. It costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. Destroy all non-land permanents. This is basically a big reset button, which you really don't want to play for yourself, but yeah, if you have to, you have to. Heliod's Intervention. Oh, I love this card. For 2 mana and X, an instant, choose 1. Either destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. Oh, there was a time when I was at like less than 10 life. I played this card. Wham! I was way above 40 again. Love it. Ravnica at War. For 4 mana, it's a sorcery. Exile all multicolored permanents. Very nice, since we play monocolored. Then we have some life gain. Soul Warden, of course. We have the Soul Sisters package here. And Soul's Attendant. And both of them do exactly the same. For 1, they are 1/1. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain, or you gain 1 life. Oh, that's the only difference here. You gain, you may gain. Sutter Priest. For 2 mana, it's a 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life. Audioc Champion. For 2 mana, it's a 1/1. Pro Black and Red. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. More life gain here. Cleric Class. For 1 mana, it's an enchantment class. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead. Then you can level it up to level 2 for 4 mana. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And then for 5 mana, when it becomes level 3, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. You gain life equal to its toughness. So all of these tiers are very handy to have in this deck. Then we have Authority of the Consuls. For 1, it's an enchantment. Creatures your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped. Very nice. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you gain 1 life. Oh, the life gain doesn't end. If all would fail, you would play a Warship. For 4 mana and enchantment, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1. Instead reduces it to 1 if you control a creature. Well, you would control a creature since this is a tribal deck. So that's a good one. Land Tax. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful enchantments. For 1 mana, it's an enchantment. Very handy and white. During your upkeep, if an opponent controls more land than you, you may search your library and remove up to 3 basic land cards and put them into your hand. Reshuffle your library afterwards. Then we have the creature version, Weathered Wayfarer. For 1 mana, 1/1. And then for 1 and tap, search your library for a land card, reveal it and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Play this ability only if an opponent controls more land than you. Then we have some staples for white. Smothering Tithe. For 4 mana, it's enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If the player doesn't, you create a colorless treasure artifact token. Then we have Monologue Tax. For 3 mana and enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. Then we have Smuggler's Share for 3 mana and enchantment. At the beginning of each end step, draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control this turn. Very handy card. Again, like I said, we have someone with landfall, so yeah, that's gonna be very handy. And we also have someone, there's always someone bound to draw more cards in their turn. Then we have Lightning Greaves, just for protecting some of the more vulnerable angels, or just creatures if everyone has protection and stuff like that. Lightning Greaves, 2 mana, equipment. Equipped creature has haste and can't be the target of spells or abilities, and equip cost is 0. Then for some mana rocks, we have Soul Ring, of course, 1 mana at 2. Mox Amber for 0. Tap 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Arcane Signet for 2 mana, tap 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Mind Stone for 2 mana, tap for 1, or you can pay 1 and sacrifice Mind Stone, draw a card. Pearl Medallion for 2, white spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Herald's Horn for 3, when it enters the battlefield choose a creature type. Creatures you control, you cast of the chosen type, cost 1 less to cast. And at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. Then Urza's Incubator for 3. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. Then we have some mana stuff, artifacts and power stuff thingies. Caged Sun for 6. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1. And whenever a land's ability adds 1 or more mana of the chosen color to your mana pool, add an additional mana of that color to your mana pool. Gauntlet of Power for 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+1. And whenever a basic land is tapped for mana of the chosen color, its controller adds 1 mana of that color to his or her mana pool. Then for some lands here, we have Path of Ancestry, of course, because we are tribal. So enters battlefield tapped. If you tap it, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, scry 1. Of course, because we play angels and love life gain, Seraph Sanctuary, a land that taps for colorless, but that's not the point. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, and whenever an angel enters the battlefield in your control, you gain 1 life. Nykthos, because we play monocolored, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. It's a legendary land that taps for 1. But for 2, you can choose a color. Add to your mana pool an amount of mana that's of that color equal to your devotion to that color. Then we have a Ganjo, the Seed of the Empire, legendary land, taps for white, or you can channel it for 3, discard a Ganjo. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. This ability costs 1 less to cast to activate for each legendary creature you control. Now then, since it is not since it doesn't enter the battlefield tapped, it is just a land and really situational. Yeah, you can use it for the channel ability, but I have never used it for its channel. So yeah, that. Imeriada Sky Ruin enters the battlefield tapped, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, which will happen, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it adds 4 white. Myriad Landscape enters the battlefield tapped and add colorless to tap it. For 2 and tap, sacrifice Myriad Landscape. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. And of course, planes. We have 25 planes, and these are all in the Serra's Realm variant. Oh, I like to match my land with the deck that I play. And that's it for Giada Font of Hope, my Angel Tribal deck. I love it. I have played it for months now. I still love it. It's still not getting boring. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time. Bye bye.